this game ends up going the distance here, simply because... Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Expedition Lost for game number 1 of this best of 9 King of the Hill series. It's a Protoss versus Zerg, and spawning as the blue Protoss in the top right corner, ladies and gentlemen, representing Team Liquid.net, we have Mana. Is it blue and white? Oh, is it black and gold? I don't even know. Because we have the yellow Zerg, ladies and gentlemen, over here in the bottom left-hand corner. He spawns as the player representing my insanity in the southwest position of Expedition Lost. Let's see if he can make it 3 in a row, defeating his opponent tonight. It is Petraeus. Man, I never really got that whole dress thing that's going around Twitter at the moment. Apparently, there's this massive uproar about whether it's blue and black or white and gold. And the only uproar in my mind is why people don't get their white balances right before they take the photo. And yeah, to be perfectly frank, that's all I have to say on the matter. If you really want to get technical, you can go and use Adobe Swatch, which will tell you it's actually light blue and gold. If you are going to be very, very particular about that one photo. But generally speaking, it's rubbish. And now we all move on. We have, though, got blue and gold in this game, luckily, as Mana and Petraeus have conveniently picked those particular colors. In base gateway, very tactical location here, by the way, from Mana to prevent sort of Zergling going around the mineral line here and stop Petraeus from potentially getting in. Followed up by a Nexus on the low ground, as you can see. Now, if we take a look back at what our Zerg friend is doing, we've now taken the first gas from Petraeus after going for the hatch first into the spawning pool, so nothing incredibly dastardly. And Mana, in fact, is just going to be patrolling his probe, waiting to see at what point Petraeus is looking to take his third base location. He has, of course, seen the natural expansion go down with his Overlord, and maybe looking to take that very shortly indeed. The spawning pool's about to finish, and I wouldn't be surprised if the first 2 lings do a little bit of a sweep. Now, the cybernetics core on the low ground is just going to be forming part of this wall off. It also potentially represents a target, for example, if there's any sort of early game roach aggression coming out of our Zerg player here. Petraeus may well try and see if he can knock down this wall, at the very least snipe off the cybernetics core. Makes it incredibly frustrating for Protoss to reinforce with units, because you're basically just warping in zealots from that point. So he'll be very keen not to get into that kind of situation. The probe has seen that a third base isn't being taken super early, and we're now going to be moving into the natural to check out what is going on. They're only now transferring workers over to the second base, so there's not an awful lot going on right now. We see there are no workers left in this extractor, which means that after the Zergling speed is being produced here, we're actually just going to be focusing on macroing up as much as possible. And I think this is going to mean the probe is going to quickly hasten his exit, because the spawning pool is done. But I think that also might have given Mana a little bit of an idea as to the timing of this third hatchery as well, which is about to go down, because he saw no workers were left in gas, which means that after getting that Zergling speed, Petraeus was just trying to macro up. So he'll go, okay, so roughly it's going to be this sort of timing with a single gas taken and no extra gas mined. That's a bit of information for the Protoss there that Mana can actually use. And we now have the wall off at the front here. Not going to be able to do too much. The Mothership Core keeping watch over that area there, and one of those 2 Zerglings are going to bite the dust very, very quickly. The second one will be able to come back for a scout towards the third base to see if Mana's actually just going to be massing up units so that he can take a third base safely. Very important to know that if you're a Zerg player. Lots of 2 base all-ins that can be very, very scary. Making an army to protect the third, however, means that Petraeus can just focus on scouting, can focus on his macro, and making sure he responds effectively to whatever kind of tech choices Mana chooses to use here. Overlord getting tickled outside of the main base as well, as the robotics facility is about to complete down here for our Team Liquid player, and we've got a forge behind it as well. Just the single forge at the moment. We're not going to be going for 2. This pro taking a well-earned break after warping in a forge out of nowhere. It probably takes quite a lot of work. Don't blame him for it. And in the meantime, we've got the Roachborn coming out here for Petraeus. Looking like it's going to be at the moment for just early game kind of shenanigans. Zerglings now scouting literally everywhere across the edges of the map, wanting to see if there might be any proxy Twilight Councils, Dark Shrines, Stargates, stuff like that. moving out around the peripheral here. Interestingly, he hasn't done this on the bottom right yet, but he probably should. This kind of area can always be a threat as well. But it looks like the top left of the map is more or less covered right now. And also scouting to see with this Overlord that there is no third base incoming. And that could end up being useful information, because Sentries, +1, and Immortals are now being boosted out by Liquid Mana. It looks like we're going to be seeing a situation where we have a Sentry Immortal all-in game number 1, hiding his Overlords in a very tactical place as well. Just halfway between the bases, about as far from potential Overlord vision as he can possibly muster. A couple of Stalkers here will prevent this Overlord, for example, from seeing these Immortals that are being chrono boosted out right here. We also have the Mothership Core quite far out the front of the base here as well, just to dissuade any scouting information, to make sure Mana has as large an element of surprise as possible. And here comes the Overseer that's going to be able to... Yes, he just scouts and sees the 3 Immortals. Mana tries to move them out of the way, hopefully out of the Overseer's vision, but Petraeus got a little bit of a glimpse of it, and now I believe he knows what's coming. 9 Roaches on the way now, 10. You've got Glial Reconstitution and Burrow, both on the way now as well. Very aggressively spreading his creep out into the middle of the map to stop this attack as soon as possible. And now Mana has decided he's going to be moving out. He's got 3 Immortals and a whole bunch of Sentries on top of this. So let's keep an eye on whether or not he's going to be successful in breaking the initial defenses. Petraeus, though, he seems to be moving the opposite way. Very, very interesting. He sees the War Prism going out to the army as well, and he's actually trying to take apart some of this wall. In the meantime, we have... Wow, Mana going for the back rocks here, and it's more or less undefended. Petraeus does now see this army, but it looks like his main base is going to be in a lot of trouble here. No Spine Crawlers, Roaches only at the moment, and I'll tell you what, with 3 Immortals in this mix, that could be a major, major problem for him. He needs to produce a lot more units right now. 4 more Roaches on the way, no Zerglings, so these Immortals are doing so much damage. Good Burrow there, and yes, we have a recall back, so the counterattack here appears to have worked. Both of these pylons have gone down. 3 cannons were forced to warp in as well, and Petraeus has been successful in dissuading his opponent from trying to break him completely. These Roaches are now going to pick up the pylon over here, and the game goes on. But Mana, he's in a very, very tricky situation right now. His attack, which is supposed to win in the game, basically didn't work, and while he hasn't lost too much, back at home, he's got a couple of buildings unpowered here. He's got a gap in his wall that he has to worry about as well. His opponent's on 3 bases compared to his 2, and he's basically down by just over 50 supply. This army, don't get me wrong, is very, very scary, but it's not doing anything right now, and that's really the massive issue. The Tastelope looking like he's acting as mediator between these armies right now, as Petraeus confirms that we don't actually have a 3rd base coming down. And the more time that passes right now, the more difficult this game could get for Liquid Mana. Ooh, baiting a couple of force fields out very early on. Those Zerglings are going to be very helpful because those Immortals don't do bonus damage to them here. So all we're trying to do is keep his opponent in his base for as long as possible. Petraeus splitting up these Roaches for a backdoor counterattack to try and kill as many workers as possible, continuously delay the economy non-stop. Chrono boost on these warp gates, guys. Mana is basically going absolutely ham-fisted into the next attack, but Petraeus isn't letting him. He's going to be the one doing the aggression first. Zerglings moving into the natural expansion. All of the cannons but 1 die. The Cybernetics core almost gets sniped off as well. We were talking at the beginning of the game about how this could end up being a target for early game attacks. And Petraeus is looking like he's in a commanding position in game number 1. He's already won 2 best of 9s. Could he be on course to win a 3rd best of 9 at $300 as well? The early signs are certainly looking good. He's moving in very aggressive now. The Cybernetics core gets picked off. Photon Overcharge on the natural expansion here. And Petraeus is knocking on the front door of Liquid Mana, who is trying to hold on for dear life here in game number 1. This entire time, it's a 3-base versus a 2-base economy, and the income disparity here is looking increasingly good for our Zerg player, who's now at 173 supply versus 105. Now let's talk about pluses right now for Mana. His army composition is very scary. These Immortals plus the Stalkers have incredibly high damage output, and he's also got 1-1 attack, by the way. Sorry, +1 attack and +1 armor versus the no upgrades from Petraeus. But Petraeus, he's got 3 bases, and he's got burrowed Roaches that can see this army has just moved out. So that's going to be really frustrating for him indeed. And I wonder if Mana knows this. Well, if he doesn't, he certainly suspects it. A couple of units here chasing the army away, killing off the mothership core. Could potentially be a huge bit of information, by the way, as Photon Overcharge won't be available a little bit later on. And, well, Petraeus once again is knocking at the front door, and he's saying, every time I come up here, you seem to have less and less and less. What are you going to do about it? The wall has been made once again with some gateway units. We can see some small skirmishes over here on the right-hand side, basically preventing Mana from getting any purchase outside in the middle of the map. And this is allowing Petraeus to take a 4th base behind this. He's now starting to catch up in upgrades as well. Look, +1 missile attacks is about to complete. We've got the Hydralisk upgrade now about to complete as well. And I think this game might be about to steamroller here. More and more of the natural expansion is getting picked away. There's no 3rd base to speak of. This reinforcement Hydra Roach army, admittedly 90% Hydras right now, is going to be able to do so much damage. And I wonder if he can't even kill off the rock tower here to isolate his forces so that he can calmly pick off this 3rd Nexus. Petraeus will spot it right now and go, hang on a second, I reckon I can take that out. And he'd be absolutely right. There is no choice but to cancel. We have a bunch of lings inside the main base. The main army is now trying to take out the natural expansion. There goes the Nexus. Here goes the pylon that was next to it as well. The lings inside the main base do get cleaned up, but once again, Mana is massively on the back foot. Petraeus is now catching up in that upgrade tab. So he's now got the +1 upgrade as well, although admittedly Mana just finished the +2. But look at the supplies. It's 189 to 120 right now. Mana needs to break out, but he doesn't just need to break out. He needs to make sure that he wins the next engagement so that he's free to take a 3rd base. And look at this. Petraeus just has such great map presence right now, and these Hydralisks are going to absolutely wreak havoc inside the main base. And that sentry, well, it might just survive, but even if it does survive, look at this ramp. Is it going to be coming up? No, he's actually retreating with the Hydras. Petraeus is saying, well, I think I'm in a winning position here, but why do I need to risk sacrificing a bunch of Hydras to see if I can kill some workers? Can't I just regroup and kick you then? And that's because we've got the Zerglings over here. And we've got a Zergling over here. And unfortunately, that Nexus isn't going down anytime soon. So Mana, once again, having a couple of difficulties here. There are 2 observers on the field. Where are they? One is there, and the other is somewhere. But most importantly, he's going to be able to clear this now so that he can actually put down the 3rd base location. There we go. We see the Burrow Zergling. There it goes, and the Nexus has gone down. Now, Petraeus is coming in to try and deny this again. It's at 200 supply versus 130. Mana holding on strong here, and this time he's saying, right, I know I'm really delayed, but I need to get my 3rd base now. Petraeus, though, coming in with a ridiculous, absolutely redonkulous amount of DPS coming out of these Hydralisks, and this battle could end up being very messy indeed. Choosing the left-hand side, we have a Viper. Blinding Cloud goes down on a lot of that army here, and these Hydras, I mean, the DPS from this could end up being phenomenal, but the engagement isn't really the best at the moment for Petraeus. A lot of these Hydralisks are locked out, unable to do any damage, but the sentries are at the front for Petraeus, and he doesn't want that. So many of them on low health already early on in this engagement. He's trying to be so cost-effective against these units, but there are no units really to tank. The Stalkers are absolutely taking the majority of the damage, and while these force fields are fantastic, Petraeus is still 60 supply up on him. Mana would be able to take the lead if he kept this up indefinitely and just kept this kind of engagement at such a level where he's guaranteed to have the upper hand all times. He's now trying to take the bottom part of this to see if he can block out about half of these Hydralisks, but Petraeus going in once again for the surround, trying to bait out those force fields, and here we go on the left side, a lot of those Hydras moving in DPS, and now Petraeus moving in from both sides. He feels like he should be able to take this fight. Now we'll see if he ends up being right. Excellent Blinding Cloud after forcing Mana into a corner here. Mana forced to really be aggressive against the army on the top left, but it's not going to be enough because the bottom army is breaking through. My Insanity's Petraeus, ladies and gentlemen, wins game number 1 of the Hot Seat Week 3 Best of 9.